Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Dan.
I'm Kaila. I'm Tori.
And I'm Josh. And for the 10th season in a row, Dan is back on our panel.
Yep.
So we always enjoy having you on here. You've been here since we were filming in my basement.
Yeah, that was back in season 2, I think.
Yeah, back in season 2. We filmed down there until season 5, and then we moved it here.
We still have a big table too.
Mm.
Yeah, we can cover the table though.
Yeah, we still have the table. But you were here for...
We metaphorically got rid of the table. We moved you guys closer.
Yeah, it was a matter of differentiation. There were people back then that liked the table. We realized that this is better. And you were here for the Ellie episodes, too, which was quite a big event.
Ellie.
Our guest
Ellie,
from Australia.
Oh, yeah, okay. I forgot what her name
Earl
was.
Grey Books.
Sorry about that, Ellie, if you're watching this.
Alrighty then, we are going over a graphic text that Tori selected.
Yes.
Thank you, Tori.
Yeah, I was very excited about this one because this is actually my introduction to Neil Gaiman, who is one of my favorite authors, who I keep on trying to, get us to read.
At us.
Yeah, I'm just love him like I love him.
My first introduction to it was actually Coraline, yeah. I can never say the name right.
Coraline, yeah. So, which is funny because she's called Caroline and Caroline and all the other things. He loves playing with names. That's something that
My introduction was with the show, with Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Yeah, that was another book I was just like, we need to read.
All the Neil Gaiman I've read was for the show, and I'm glad for it because
he's
especially with Ocean at the End of the Lane,
a wonderful author. And the cool thing about these is that it's not only just written word. These are graphic texts. They're graphic novels. So that means that there's artists involved with it as well. And in lieu of the subject, they kind of change from artist to artist, and that's the fun thing. So this is, I'm trying to think of where to start, because I have a bunch of different questions, and I don't know where to begin with this. When I first was introduced to this, it took my sister and I a week to read all of them, because we were literally right up the road from the library, so, she would read it, and then she would give it to me, and then I would read it, and then, the next day we told our grandparents, can we go back and get the new one, and the next one, and the next one. So I didn't realize that it was DC Comics.
Yeah. It actually mentions a few DC characters in it.
And that's what I was about to bring up, is
hysterical.
I actually forgot. The first time I read it, I think because I didn't have any cultural, they weren't culturally relevant to me. Now reading it, I'm like, that Batman is in here, the Justice League is in here.
I like Constantine, I think.
I like Jonathan Crane's, I like his remark about the Joker.
Yeah. So, the Arkham...
At the Arkham Asylum,
and, I read these things back then, and it was just like, Arkham, that kind of makes me think of Batman, but whatever. And, didn't put the pieces together. But do you think... Because the later you go into the stories, because these are the introductory pieces, so these were, they were published like they were any other kind of comic. So there's a bunch of comics. There's 1 through 8 in here.
Yeah.
Did the fact that it had those familiar characters ease you into the story better, or do you think that made it a little jarring?
I think it was... that was indifferent in my mind.
Indifferent? Okay.
I think that the one thing that boggled me a bit was the way of the paneling. I think that it was somewhat disorganized in my mind. For instance, there would be a scene at this end that you would... My assumptions usually start from the top left corner and go to the bottom right, but sometimes there's an image here, and then there's something, they're all viney, and you have no... I'll read from the area that I think it should be, but I should be reading somewhere else.
I don't disagree with that, but I found that on the panels that I was really I don't know where I should move to after I've read that first clear section. I found that once I read the whole page, it didn't really matter where I moved to next. It was a pretty complete story in itself, so it didn't really, a lot of them I kind of wound up reading, down and then moving over, and it still worked the same way as if I had read it in a different order.
It's done absolutely intentionally,
Yeah.
because you're dealing with one, so the story, the Sandman Chronicles, or the stories that are in all of these, follow the 8 endless, which is, they're not gods, so they have an end. Ironic, because their name is the Endless.
Yeah.
But so it's all of them: death, dream, destruction, desire. So it's all of these different embodiments of concepts that humans have. And the story starts with us being introduced to this nameless person, because this, clandestine group is trying to summon and bottle basically death. And who they get is the younger brother, Dream. So that whole entire fact that there's this constant shift in the way that the pages are lined up and the art style, and sometimes you have these characters that you recognize, and other times it's like little clippings, like somebody took a magazine and cut them out and pasted them in here.
It's very dreamlike.
It's very dreamlike, yeah. So it kind of lends itself. So even using the medium of the pen and paper and the ink and the book itself lends itself to the story as well.
I also like that it kind of just drives home that for these nearly eternal figures, time is just a construct. Like, you can kind of read it in whatever fashion on that page, because to them time means nothing, and we are but mere mortals, and dust on the speck of their reality.
They also mentioned, he says at one point, I experience time at the same rate as you, so I'm stuck in this glass ball, because they trap him in this crystal ball basically, and he watches in real time all of the family that has him trapped in their basement grow old, and then the next generation and the next generation. But he's been around for forever. So, like you were saying, the reference point is this is just an instant of momentary entrapment, but it feels like forever for now. But I know that something will happen, and I'll come along, and I'll be able to get back out again.
Right.
So, but it was just funny the second time reading it. And Neil Gaiman, his stuff, I always do this, and it may be because I said, I didn't have the background knowledge for it, but there were characters in here that I was I don't know who all these people are. I don't know who's this Constantine dude in a trench coat, or
that's why I like
Sam L or whatever.
They had DC characters, but the thing is they had the lesser known ones. So it's kind of it's something that could have actually happened in I don't know what DC's main continuity
off
is.
Screen.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's oh, he's working in the background. This is stuff that has probably happened. It's kind of what's another example I can use? I'm trying to think of an example, the Marvel TV shows. They all interact with the movies, but the things they still happen, but they're kind of in the background.
Yeah.
So that's the best example I could probably think of. I know we're talking about DC, but it's kind of
no, that makes sense.
Well,
these are stories that happen with unknown characters.
Yeah,
I mean, they do mention the Justice League at one point, but the thing is,
Superman, that though, they say that it's not the Justice League that we would all know and recognize.
So it could be a completely different universe, because as we know, DC has different universes, Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth X, that Nazi world that was really weird.
Yeah. For me,
that was a thing for a while.
I didn't find it to be jarring, but I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about what I was gonna enter. Man. So when I saw Constantine, I was like, oh. Or I think right off the bat they talk about Batman, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait.
I want to see Bruce Wayne's dreams. That's the point when you get to see his dreams.
I don't think that's... I want to say after this point onward, because we start meeting... It's a really cool series. You start meeting the rest of the family, so it starts becoming its own creature, and it starts becoming its own story. This started as something that was pitched to, a DC writer between Neil Gaiman and this other person, and he was like, I have these ideas, da-da-da-da, and the person was like, write them. Do it. Publish them, but make it something that's your own.
Because Neil Gaiman doesn't really do graphic novels.
He does and he doesn't. He has more stuff. I have the Graveyard Book. I have both volumes of that as graphic novels. I have American Gods. I have, I think, the first couple of chapters as a graphic novel. Coraline, that was the one that I had, was graphic novel. So he has a background with writing that kind of stuff, but it wasn't any of his own, I believe. So this was an original idea that he kind of was spearheading, and it wasn't just another, it wasn't Superman and
Batman.
Batman or whoever going into the dream world with like Dr. Destiny. It was Dr. Destiny is the character, and Dream and Death and all of these other things are happening in their own mini world of their and creating that world by basing it off of stuff that we know, and then allowing it to breathe on its own and become its own story. So it's a really interesting concept, and
Dr. Destiny was an interesting character to explore as well, because
he was fun.
I was trying to decipher why he is Dr. Destiny. Just the whole idea that he's the embodiment of somebody that wants to, kind of like Gollum, where he wants that ruby to have control of not just his own fate, but the fate of the world. But yet, by embarking on that passion, he is driving himself into insanity, and it ultimately destroys him. Because to defeat the fact that, I mean, Dream was nice enough to just bring him back to Arkham Asylum, but that's still a defeat.
Yeah, it's a defeat no matter what, but like I think that whole resolution to that whole fight, I think is just a perfect example of like what kind of character
Dream is. I totally agree. I thoroughly enjoyed the way that storyline tied up. Like I
literally could have crushed him between his fingers.
Yeah, and I thought the fact that he didn't and gave him a restful night's sleep was like so exemplary of what the rest of the series would look like.
Yeah, and
him and Dr. Crane.
Exactly it.
And that's the thing. Is like he's the Sandman. The thing is like he's the one that puts you to sleep. And the thing is he can make you have a nightmare, or he can make you have pleasant dreams.
The son of the owner of the secret society have nightmares for the rest of his like existence. And it doesn't feel like it's like waking nightmares constantly. And going back to the name thing, because you said it was Sandman. He has Morpheus, King of Dreams. He has all these different names, and that's something.
So that's why we're calling him Dream, because the thing is like, because like I remember the name. Like they mostly call him Morpheus, is what we hear. It's the first one we hear.
Morpheus is that, and that's also.
But then there's that other name which I can't pronounce. From like when he meets that girl in hell, she calls him Kaila.
Wait,
I don't know.
on. Now I'm just like, what name is this?
When he meets the girl in hell, I forget what her name was.
He meets the girl in hell.
Okay, here we go.
She's like in the cage.
Oh yeah. When he appears as a different individual.
Oh yeah. Kaikul.
Yeah, I
Kai apostrophe CKUL.
Yeah, I did not know how to pronounce that one.
Completely like
different. Yeah, that specifically threw me off a little bit.
Because that's how we normally say it, and this is I don't know what that is.
It was kind of like something that I just had to kind of be like, okay. And
I thought it was a different character originally when I first saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, this is him.
Yeah, I missed the fact that he looked different because I was too busy reading the text bubble. So because the text bubble was the same, I missed it on the first go round.
Oh, really?
Like with this next time around, I forgot that happened. So it's just kind of like a tease of this person is here in hell and whatever they're doing. So
I also like that just kind of hinted that he has a past. Like
he didn't just exist page one.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Neil Gaiman does a fantastic job at being able to create a past with his characters by just adding those subtle little details of having an interaction or having those different things, having somebody else come up and call you a different name. Neil Gaiman loves playing with names. Coraline, he does that in Ocean at the End of the Lane. So, and also the trio of the Weird Sisters, that's kind of referenced in Ocean at the End of the Lane. It's referenced in here. Ocean at the End of the Lane. Read it.
I don't think I read that one.
Read it.
It was a great book.
It's one of his shorter works.
But that one, it's the lack of names too.
In this story, like I said, like these are the embodiments of concepts. So there's 8 of them, and they all start with the letter D. Dream, Death, Desire. Let's see if I can remember all of them. Dream, Death, Desire,
Destiny.
Delight, which turns into Delirium, Destiny, Destruction. I didn't remember the other ones. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so they get introduced later in the stories as it starts to become more about the endless. And this is my introduction actually to like graphic novels in general, instead of just being the like dime store, like, oh, it's Batman, oh, it's that kind of stuff. I never really and not that I'm saying I poo-pooed on that, but this is where I actually saw that like the art and the concept and pages can have, like a story can go through all these different things, and the cells can be different shapes and sizes, and that.
I totally agree. Like, I love graphic novels, but I'm not into, like, superhero graphic novels. You know, like, I want to read a complete story, you know, and I feel like this really brings that to
me,
you.
To me, it depends on the superhero.
Yeah.
If it's a
that I don't mind.
someone like I like Batman and Spider-Man. I think a lot of it is the supporting cast.
I'm not saying that that's not
Poo-pooing
writing.
that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not poo-pooing it at all. It just never had any attraction to me until
Yeah.
I started looking at this and said, like, wow, you know, these stories.
It's art.
Oh, so is that why
It's
you didn't
art.
know who like some of the superheroes were? Like
I knew them, but
Constantine?
it just kind of in the back. Yeah, like Constantine, I had no idea who he was. I knew who Batman and Robin were.
Well, everyone
and
knows who they are.
Right,
exactly. So I knew
Yeah.
them by name and I knew them by like image, but like I didn't get the connections until like now, where I read it again and was like, oh my god, I totally forgot about all of these things and all the little details and all of the different shifts in the way that he constantly changes from cell to cell, and usually that inconsistency is like whatever, but because he is the embodiment of dreams, having that shifting perspective is like right on par for like perfect for what this
And
is.
you can tell that, like, every single aspect of that is so purposeful from Neil Gaiman. Like, it's all, like, everything in this will eventually come full circle. Like, I haven't even read the rest of the series, and I can tell you that, like...
Yeah, and the artists, I think several of the chapters in here, the artist behind it is also the artist who did my version of Coraline. I recognize some of the artwork in here. So, like, they've done consistently some of this other stuff that they turned the novel into, like, a graphic novelization.
Which in this paperback, though, they had changed hands as far as illustration was concerned.
Yeah, you can actually see
so-
like there's a bit of a change at some point in
Oh,
them.
yeah, that's
The
the other
styles,
fun
yeah.
thing is, like, and as you go through, like, there's a whole, I
Yeah,
want
like
to
I
say...
think it's like some of the drawings like here.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
Yeah.
and this is what I was talking about, was the fact that it almost looks like lino cuts, like like it's pieces of magazine and copy pasted, and the other novels, the other versions of this, like as you go through the story, like watercolor, and it starts taking on all these other. It breathes this whole other life into it, and it just kind of goes to show you that like graphic novels are a very legitimate source of like a book content. Yeah, so it's just-
writing.
the one thing that I will have to say, and I totally forgot about it, is the kind of almost snapshot of like when it was written. You look at some of the styles of clothing that they're wearing, and it's a little bit dated, but like it's
I
totally
think
fine
that's
at
cool
the
though.
same
Yeah.
time.
Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it is a snapshot. Like,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's
It doesn't detract from the
it's
story
very
at all.
pioneering in what it incorporates because there's a lesbian character in
Mhm.
this piece,
And that's not like
openly
the
so.
butt of a joke, and it's not. She comes to a very very tragic demise.
Everybody at that diner does.
Yeah, I remember when I first read that, I had to put it down and like walk away because that was the first time like I ever like I've read books where that kind of stuff happens, but I
you don't
never
see it.
visualized
Yeah.
it. Like
Mhm.
had it,
Yeah.
and that was again also the turning point. I was like, I am reading something that is very very different from what the other stuff, and I don't think like it just it stuck out as something that was very different, and these comics made Neil Gaiman kind of like one of my favorite authors, and for very good reason.
I think that there were I think that the fact that I thought the last book in here was somewhat light, but I think that's expected when it's paperback series.
And maybe it makes sense like if you go to read like the
But-
next volumes and stuff
Well,
like that.
I was going to say, this is kind of the introduction into, these are the rest of the Endless. So this is your introduction into Death, who is this
I was
very,
finding
like...
out that I found it surprising that Death was his sister.
Mhm.
Yeah, but me too.
Before they said it was before they identified it as a
We're
female,
talking about
I
Mary
thought it was.
Poppins.
I thought she was trying to
about
flirt
all
with
the
him.
Things. No,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I
oh
mean,
my
I feel
God.
like it just
Yeah.
seems natural to assume that when you meet the character of Death, it's going to be a male.
And
I don't know, like, why, but that's I had the same thought.
And
then,
I'll
then
tell
they
you this
introduced
much.
Her.
In that chapter,
Women will be
in
the death
that,
of us here.
in the 8th book,
No offense to you guys.
that comedian was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
She was.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was. I think that Death pretty much took her out of her misery.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's just the motherliness of her. Not motherly, maybe that's not the maternal guidance of her taking them, off into whatever afterlife it was supposed to be. Like, that was also another time where I was just like, oh, this is very, very different. than
Yeah,
the
it's not
other
portrayed as, like, some gruesome, horrible thing. It's it's a shepherd leading
Yeah.
its sheep. Like it's very much just like she sees it as her duty. She understands why she has to do it, and so she does it. Like it's not a big ordeal.
Yeah, it's like a different version of death. Like 'cause when we see death, is like it's always like the skeleton with the cloak and like things like
or
touch
someone
of death.
matronly, or someone that's to be feared, or like is unrelenting and is cruel.
But here it just shows that the thing is death is just someone who leads the souls to the afterlife, be it heaven or hell.
Yeah, and she does what she's supposed to again, and she's the embodiment of death. So she, collects the souls, and I think the worst one out of all of them is when she's talking to the baby, and the baby is like, "Was that it? That's it. All I got."
All I get. Yeah.
Like it was just very.
Yeah, it's actually kind of screwed to think that baby died.
Yeah, well,
but it's something that happens.
Yeah, so just showing all those
sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah, so it's just it's a very interesting way of looking at things and moving forward. All the other characters, like I love the way that Desire is portrayed, and I love the way that Delirium's background and the way that the families like interact with one another, and there's all these other characters too that get introduced. And now I don't know if those are other DC characters or not, but now I want to go back and read the rest of this because it's been a while. But it was kind of like going back to like finding your favorite book and like going and seeing an old friend again. It's just like, I remember this scene. Oh, I remember this scene. Like, so I think it's masterfully written, and it is portrayed very well through artwork as well. So it has a marvelous groundwork for it to be based in a physical form. Does that make any sense?
I think from start to finish, it's exemplary storytelling. Like it truly, truly was.
So I'm just glad that everybody else enjoyed too.
To an extent.
Well,
I would say.
You're the party pooper. I'm kidding.
There were a lot of things that I liked about it. I thought there were moments that were just hysterical. I think that Neil Gaiman was very creative with not just the characters themselves, but the injection of humor.
He's, again, very good with that.
And references to the DC universe. But I also thought that it was a little bit foggy and disorganized. But I think that this was setting it up. I think that the series does get better. I think in many cases the first book is the best in a series. I'm not expecting that to be the case with this.
Yeah, I feel like it really kind of gets its own legs the further into the series you get, because it gets to delve into these really interesting concepts of how the endless interact with the world, and how time has evolved the world, and how they have evolved with the humans.
Doesn't it also like go into like we get to see dreams like some famous people, like from what but my first introduction to Sandman is that it was like he went into the dreams of Julius Caesar.
I think he
I know it
other
doesn't happen
people
here,
as well,
but I think it happens like later on.
Well, it does happen kind of in here when when him and Dr. Destiny are going through the dreams.
Yeah.
Dr. Destiny has a dream that he is Julius Caesar.
Yeah, I can't remember too much, but I just remember like the way that it approaches those topics of destruction. Destruction is, again, not what you would think. He's this big burly Viking dude, but is just like has like a cable knit sweater on and lives in a cabin in the middle of the woods because he wants to isolate himself. And Destiny is blind, not Desire, because you can never really truly look into the future because we can't really figure that out. And Desire turned into Delirium because of the way that we've convoluted that kind of stuff. So like all of those little bits and pieces. Desire is androgynous. So you can't really tell. So depending on how they're drawn in the cells, sometimes they're a little more effeminate, and sometimes they're a little more masculine, and sometimes they're falling somewhere in between.
Yeah, just like it takes the things and like just turns on their head, like they're not what you think they would be.
Yeah, it's this really interesting reinterpretation of a concept, and the way that they interact with one another and the world and the story it's a really good read. It's a very compelling read. So. I urge you all to, if you like Neil Gaiman like me, or if you're getting into Neil Gaiman, please, if you can get your hands on these.
Or you want to read a really weird comic book, also read it as well.
Yeah, it's funky. It's not very traditional in the sense of like the way that it's laid out. Some pages just don't make sense. But it'll make sense in the long run.
I think that the Sandman has the sense of sanity of Tori Reynolds.
Yeah, basically. That's going on in the head constantly.
Wait, is that her?
Hi.
Okay, I know what your last name was.
Yeah, that's me.
Do we have any final thoughts?
I think I've sung its praise enough.
I think it's really good.
Already.
Yeah.
I want to read the rest.
0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted. Dan?
Definitely 4 stars, I have to say. The thing is, the reason why I give it 4 stars is as I mentioned, the thing is, like, some of the scenes don't really make much sense, and some of the artwork I wasn't too keen on. But other than that, it's a really great read, so 4 stars.
Kaila?
I think I would give it 4.5 stars. I think that it was really, really good, and I'm excited to see where the rest of the series goes.
Okay, we don't need Tori.
Well, I'm actually going to say 4.5
You are,
because
huh?
I know where it goes. So I know this is
okay.
a good start, but it gets better.
Yeah,
So that's the only
okay. I
reason why I
thought,
just
knowing
said that.
you would say, I thought you were going to give it the full
10
5.
stars.
She gave it 6 stars.
And that,
No, moving forward.
like the Shakespeare
Maybe, but-
ultimatum, where it's
That's
it's
very
Sandman, it's Gaiman, 5
I
stars.
feel very upset that that's what the type of person you think I am. No, I'm kidding. No, but I know it gets
You've
better.
put that
So.
before.
So no, but 4.5 because I know it gets better.
I'm giving it a 3.5
Really?
because I think, like what you said, it is very because it's somewhat disorganized and hard to follow. It's a challenge to get a grasp of where you really begin with one's adventure. A lot of details don't necessarily string up. I think once you start, I like the particular references. I think sometimes pop culture references, when overdone, are terrible. But I think that Gaiman is very clever with that. I think he's clever with the incorporation of other DC characters, humor. I think once it starts to pick up, I think that it becomes entertaining, and I think that I'm going to be giving it, if the more opportunities I have to read this, I think the numbers will go up. But for now, I think that it was somewhat, I think that as it began, it really tumbled.
Well, yeah, because it's trying to find its place in the DC universe. So
It's looking to do so, and I
Yeah.
think that I feel that it was evident,
Mhm.
and as a bit of a weird taste.
I just found out we're sitting like right across from like a bunch of Neil Gaiman works on my shelf.
Yeah, that's my Neil Gaiman collection. I've got Neverwhere, Stardust,
oh yeah, Stardust.
Yeah.
and
That's
I just noticed the thing is I saw the name Neil Gaiman and I'm like, holy crap, we're sitting right in front of Neil Gaiman.
Yep, that's my. I'll probably increase it. I have Coraline.
Should add Sandman to that now.
Yeah, I'll probably have.
Sandman.
I have my
Have you
DC
done
comics
Stardust
here.
before? I'm sorry, we're getting off track. That's a good
No,
one.
we haven't. If you are interested in reading Sandman, Preludes and Nocturnes by Neil Gaiman, I have the 30th anniversary edition.
This is, I think, the original of the soft copy of like the 1 through 8.
I have the same one as Josh.
I don't have a book.
No, okay.
Reminds me that one time Ari and I both had a copy of The Stranger, and because Charlie wanted to hold something up, he just took a piece of paper.
Sounds like Charlie.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel. And for now, and as always, we encourage you to keep reading.
Bye.